In this video, we will explore conditional formatting in Microsoft Excel. It is a very powerful way of visualizing data in Excel as it allows you to apply a certain format to a cell or a range of cells based on certain criteria. Let's explore how it works. In this sheet, I have some customer data that includes customer number, the city they are in, sales revenue, gender, and age. And I'm going to use conditional formatting to see some patterns and visualize this data more effectively. So let's start off with where do I have conditional formatting options. I'm on the Home tab, and in this ribbon I have conditional formatting right here. Here's a bit of description on what conditional formatting is. It's a tool that helps you spot trends and patterns in your data using bars, colors, or icons to visually highlight important values. Okay, so how does it really work? I'm going to show you with taking the case of revenue. Here I have revenue. If I click on conditional formatting, I have a bunch of different options. Let's start off with the very first one, which is highlight cell rules. And here I have got a few options such as greater than, less than, between, equal to, etc. And let's first start off with greater than. So let's say in my revenue, I want to see how many of these values are more than $1,000. So I'm going to click on greater than, and I can set what is the value that I'm looking for. So let's say everything above 1,000. And I can also here set how do I want to determine these values. Do I want them to be colored, or for example, I want to have some kind of border around these values, or I can have green fill with dark green text. So there are a bunch of different options that Excel gives us here. Yellow fill with dark yellow text, for example. So these are all ways in which you can really differentiate all the values that are greater than $1,000 in your revenue. And you can essentially change it to less than or equal to, or whichever way you want to see patterns. You also have this option called custom format. So for example, I want these values to have a very specific format. Say I want them to be bold. And let's say I even want to have some kind of color for them. So let's say I want them to have blue color. And all I need to do is really click OK here. And you see what has happened. All the values that are above $1,000, they are now custom formatted. And one, they are all in bold, and two, they have the blue color. So you can use this custom format whichever way you want to really distinguish your values and have them conditionally formatted for your reports and trackers and dashboards, etc. Let's try some of the other options that were there. So let's say I want to look at values that are in between, say, $500 to $1,500. So let me just select the trend here. I'm going to say 500 to 1,500, and I want these to be to have red text, and you have it here. We were able to format them and look at values that are in between $500 and $1,500. And then there are other options such as like you are looking for very specific values. You can even conditionally format your text. If there is data on date, you can do that. You can even look at duplicate values, and this is very interesting. So let me try this one out. See what has happened here. So if I click OK, you see there are two things that have happened. So first, I already had this column conditionally formatted for all the values that were between $500 and $1,500. So those are the values that are here. But then I also had the second conditional formatting wherein I look for duplicate values. And I have these duplicate values. So $150, for example, is in row 2, row 3, and then again row 19. And similarly, I have $2,500 here in row 7 and then again in row 15. So all the duplicate values are highlighted, and I can see both these conditional formats together. I'm going to go back and I would clear these formatting. I can do that using this undo button here. So I would click on undo and I would click on it once again, and all the formatting is now gone. So you see you can have multiple formatting within the same column. And let's go back here. You can even look at your top 10 items or top 10% or bottom 10 items, bottom 10%. You can look at values that are above average or below average, etc. So let's try the top 10%. So let's click on top 10% and let's say I want them to be green fill and here. Okay, let me go back and look at the bottom ones. So go back here and look at the bottom 10% and here you go. So my bottom 10% values are right here. So I've got the top 10% highlighted, I've got the bottom 10% highlighted. It's a really great way if you're sending a report to your manager or your boss and you want to highlight where are we doing really well, who are the customers who are our kind of most valuable customers, and the ones who are least valuable. This is a great way to show this data. Okay, I'm going to go back and undo this formatting, and let's see some of the other options that are there. Now, looking at the next one, which is data bars, it's a very interesting way in which you can visually represent your data within the same cell. So let's try it out. This is the one with gradient fill, and you have multiple options in terms of the color that you want to choose, etc. You can choose between gradient fill and solid fill, and what it really does is that it makes the data come alive. So here, let's try it out. So now if you go through your column, you can very clearly see that the columns where you have the entire bar filled are the ones with the maximum value. And it is a great way to really visualize and see customers that have the most revenue and the least revenue. I'm going to again do undo, go back and check out some of the other options. So in addition to data bars, something that I really like in conditional formatting is the color scales. And what it does, it would automatically apply color formatting to your entire data. So here, the very first one is green, yellow, red scale. And the color gradient here is essentially your largest values are in the darkest green and the lowest values are in the darkest red. And again, we have a few different options here. If you go back to conditional formatting and color scales, you can change the coloring scheme as well. So here, darkest green represents the lowest values. And then there are a bunch of different options and you can try all of them out. If you want to keep the color gradient of the same color, so lightest red to darkest red, you have that option as well. Similarly with green. And again, you can click on more rules and you can even create your own rules, kind of customize how you want to show your scale. And if your company has a particular color scheme, you can use that here. Okay, I am again going to undo this and go back to conditional formatting and show you something which is really interesting, which is called the icon set. And here, in fact, let's try this with the age data that we have here. So I'm going to go back to conditional formatting, go to icon sets, and look at this. What it does is that it tries and represent this data using a certain trend. So again, the highest values are your green arrows, and then you've got the lowest values in your red arrows, and some of the ones in between are represented by the yellow. And what is really interesting is that you can go to more rules and you can customize how you want to show this data. So for example, here I have an icon set and I can show it in green if the values are greater than say 50. And I can change that to number because my data here is numbers, and again I have to change that to 50. So anything that is above 50 would be represented by a green circle, and for yellow, let's say we put everything which is a number and is greater than equal to, let's say, 25 and less than 50. So you know what Excel has done here is that it automatically figured out that I have set up green for anything that is greater than 50. I have set up yellow for anything that is greater than or equal to 25 and below 50. and then I should have red for anything that is below 25. Let me try it out, and you see it's right here. So let's look at 23 here. It is below 25 and is represented by a red dot. What is really interesting about conditional formatting is that if your data changes, the formatting automatically updates to the new data. So for example, here I have 47 in my cell E20, and if I change that 47 to say 51, you will see that the yellow circle has now changed to the green circle. So it's a really amazing way of being able to represent your data. And particularly this thing where you have the icon sets, they come in very handy if you're trying to represent a particular kind of change. So for example, change in your revenue percentage from last year, and you want to show directionally where are we going. Are we going in the positive direction, negative direction? And that is when you can use these icon sets to really represent your data. It's a great way to make the data come alive, and for anybody who is looking at your dashboards, anybody who is looking at your reports, to be able to have a quick look and understand what is going on behind the scene. In addition to that, you can always set new rules, you can clear existing rules, and you have this option of really customizing how you want to conditionally format your data. So overall, conditional formatting is a great tool wherein you're not really drawing any charts, you're not really graphing your data, but are still able to visualize your data and really share it with your data consumers. So your manager or your customers, anybody who is interested in looking at this data, and make it easy and simple for them to read it. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial on conditional formatting, and if you like the video, please don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more similar content.